All right, welcome everybody. This is episode number 57 of Sports Cards Live, October 24th, 2020. Before we get into tonight, I want to thank last Saturday's guest, Irving Manera of Mustache Breaks, and Dustin Cooley, also known as the Personal Finance Dad, joined me on After Hours. Two great episodes. Check them out. They're in the archives. I also want to thank last Wednesday's guest was Jeff Wilson of Sports Card Investor. We talked about the industry summit, among state of the hobby, a bunch of other things. That video had well over 10,000 views, smashed any other record I had for an episode before. So thanks to Jeff for bringing tons of viewers to the show and to the channel. That was really cool. This coming Wednesday, my guest will be Joel Alpert. He's a player agent, among other things, long storied history in the hobby, entertaining fellow. You won't want to miss that. And then next Saturday is going to be a Halloween-themed Pokemon episode with my friend Karn Rai, one of my go-to Pokemon guys. I want to welcome all new viewers. I want to thank tonight's guests for publicizing their appearance on the show tonight and bringing more viewers to the channel. Thanks to them, and thanks to all new viewers. Thanks to all the loyal viewers, just over 1,300 subscribers now. So again, I thank you all. Your viewership, your loyalty means a ton to me. So thank you so much. I want to let you know as well, we're going to be talking about the Virtual Expo tonight that is coming up November 21, 22. If you want to hear the take that myself and Amit, my buddy Amit Acharya, had on the first Virtual Expo, that's episode number 21 in the archives. You can go back and watch that. We debriefed the whole thing, so you'll want to see that. It'll be some good due diligence for you in terms of what to expect this time on top of what we're going to talk about tonight. I also want to mention there's a YouTube channel called Hobby Hotline. It's a live call-in show. I want to give them a shout out. I was recently named as one of the co-hosts for that show, so that's pretty cool. I'll be on once a month or so. Other hosts include Dr. James Beckett, Brian Gray, John Newman, Brody the Kid, among others, Rich Klein. There's a lot of them. So that's pretty cool. Check that out. They air Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern, and that was this morning. I was a call-in this morning, so that was pretty cool. Check those out. As always, guys, your comments and your questions are in play. Really important for tonight if you want to know what's going to be going on at the Virtual Expo coming up. And tonight, after this show is over and these guys are far asleep in bed, Amit will be joining me again on After Hours. We're going to talk about this episode a little bit. We're going to talk about our excitement for the Virtual Expo. And I'm going to open up whoa. I don't know what happened there, but all of a sudden everything closed on me. So apologies for that. Are we back? I think we are back. Are we back, guys? Thumbs up. We're back. All right. So that was weird. That's never happened before. All of a sudden my browser shut down and I had to come back in. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, here we go. We are back. So I have one package. I'm going to open this later on After Hours. It's got a pretty cool card in there. That should be fun. Check that out. Let's bring out tonight's guests. We have with us tonight, we have Steve Menzie, who is the owner of the Sport Card Expo out of Toronto. He's been doing that since around 2016. Steve, welcome to the episode. We also have in the back Mitch Adelstein. Mitch is the owner of the Chicago Spectacular, formerly the Sun Times Show. Mitch, welcome to you as well. How are you guys doing tonight? Steve, go first.
Doing well. I had a fun week. I was part of the Beckett Summit, which we'll talk about later, but that was pretty fun, pretty cool. For me, I'm a sponge still in the industry. I'm learning a bunch, and that was particularly good. Yeah. Other than that, looking forward to a nice fall day tomorrow.
All right. And Mitch, how are you doing today?
Doing great, Jeremy. I'm glad to be here. I thought maybe you were cutting my appearance short there with the blackout. I thought maybe it was my first and only appearance. I had done something wrong, but no, I'm excited to be here and to enjoy time with you guys.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Yeah, I don't know what happened there, but trust me, as soon as my monitor went blank, I freaked out. Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
I'm live. That can't be happening. All right, guys, let's jump in. Obviously, we've had a virtual expo already, and we're having another one coming up November 21, 22, less than a month away. Steve, tell us a little bit about why is this one going to be better, and how is it going to be better than the first one? Not to take anything away from the first one at all.
Well, I'll talk about it from a promoter standpoint, and obviously I've been talking to other dealers along the way and attendees to try to get feedback. I mean, overall, I had pretty strong feedback to the first one across the board. What's going to be better? Primarily, I'd say there's a couple key things. One, we've had a lot more, when I say we, I mean myself and my team have had a lot more time and experience on the platform. So that's been a big deal. I've actually upgraded the version of the same event platform that I used to an enhanced version. So there's a lot more functionality. It's going to look better, run better. I've got much better metrics. Some of you may have seen some of the stats that I was able to quote. So after the first show, I got a bunch of information back. The great thing about virtual is you can track every click, and I was able to identify how many people I had spending how many minutes in which booth over the course of the show. So really compelling numbers for the most part, and I'm happy to talk to those as well. But so there's that. The reason why we're here with Mitch is part of what I wanted to do was when I saw that I had a 50-50 US Canadian audience pretty much, and then there's probably a few percentage of people that were from overseas. I thought, all right, well, what can I do to bring in more of all other sports and to be able to draw in some of the heat that's coming from the football, basketball, in particular baseball, into it. So by pairing up with Mitch in Chicago, he brings me a ton of that. A show that's been around forever and is very steeped in the other sports more so than obviously the Toronto Expo is. So there's those things, and we just frankly had some good learnings about getting all the dealers onboarded, getting what's important, what works well for content. One of the learnings for me was, I expected that guests, and more guests were really the key to content. Not the case. The last one proved that a lot of the content that you get and collectors want to hear is industry stuff. It's Becca talking about grading. It's talking about authentication. It's talking about it's Jeff Wilson talking about investing in sports cards. All super hot and really salient topics. So those are the three things. It's the functionality, the content, and just broadening the playing field.
Okay, awesome. So, Mitch, turn to you very quickly, and we're going to get into a bit more of your background, Mitch, because you're new to the show tonight. But what have been some of the challenges, let's say, in terms of adopting this virtual platform for you, for your show, your vendors, your attendees?
It's the biggest challenge has just been that most dealers are old school. They're afraid of the technology. They're afraid of the internet, and the social media in general, and to the degree. A lot of the dealers are older and have been doing this for quite some time. And unless they have young kids that are involved, which some do and some don't, it's been a challenge. They've all been interested. Obviously, a lot of them are sitting around with nothing to do and, haven't been making a lot of money at any type of, unless they have online like an eBay or something. But that's been the number one challenge, is really just getting them to accept the premise. They all go, yeah, I hear you. I just know if I'm ready to make that jump yet. So just trying to give them the perks and the understanding of what that entails and, make a good experience for them.
Great. And I hope a bunch of them are watching tonight, because this is a great opportunity for them to and so if they are watching, if some of you guys are watching out there that are Mitch's dealers from the Chicago Spectacular, I encourage you to, of course, sit through this video, watch the debrief episode number 21 of Sports Cards Live that I alluded to earlier. And even later on tonight, if you're going to stay up late, we're going to be talking about it some more with fellow virtual vendor Amit Acharya with his booth called 99 Goals. We'll be talking about that too. So, guys, before we move on with our agenda, we're going to say hello to the guests, the viewers we have. So, Cardboard Max, best show in the biz. Thank you so much, Ernie. Good evening to you, J-Rod. Welcome to the show. Anonymous Facebook user. Welcome to you. If anyone is watching on Facebook and you haven't before, on the ticker right now, go to StreamYard.com/Facebook, click the big blue button, and I will be able to see your name and address you directly, which is how we like it here. Paul, welcome to the show. Rondell, hi, Jeremy, rest of crew. Hello to you. Joe, always good to see you. Hockey, welcome to the show. Colin Murray, good to see you. Al G, always a pleasure. Matt 14, evening, looking forward to another great show. Great to have you. That must be when I Yeah, where did I go? I don't know what happened, guys. I clicked something by accident, so I'm back. All right, Legion, good to see you. J-Rod, thank you very much. Ken, welcome to the show. Joe, good to see you still. JR, I don't know what you're talking about, JR, but welcome. Matt Fox, good evening, J-Dog, and the rest of the gang. That's my buddy Matt from Calgary. Good to see you, buddy. Good. I told you to type something in there. I'm glad you're tuning in. Amish Dave Archer, great to see you. Mitch and Steve, can't wait for the second virtual in November. Awesome. I can't wait for it either. Rich, I owe you a PM back. It is coming. Looking forward to the second virtual as well. Anonymous YouTube user by that name. I love it. Hello to you. Here's a question for Steve based on feedback from the first virtual. Is there some sort of seller boot camp, for lack of a better term for it? Steve, why don't you take that?
And there are a few things specifically that we've done for that. So we're now at the point where, as we were last time, running twice a week demos. So a couple of things we're doing over and above. So those are we'll publish those ongoing, but they're obviously open to anybody and everybody. We've learned more. We've got more functionality that we can take you through, and we're also, shame on us for taking so long to do it, but we started now recording the dealer onboarding sessions, the demos, so that if you can't watch at the times that they're on, then you can just, I'll send the YouTube links out again, and you can watch them at your convenience. One of the things that we're dealing with now as well is that most of Mitch's dealers are, of course, in Chicago, the Central Time Zone. So we're just trying to manage the best time of day for all. So the onboarding sessions are being recorded, they're being shared, and we're enhancing the whole best practice piece. So it's stuff that we can share. We've got more FAQ. And frankly, we've got a much bigger dealer base that's been experienced. So I made a note too, Jeremy. Thank you for that on sharing the episode, the debrief review to meet. I had a few user videos that got posted up that I found. So I've been trying to share those out. So those have been great. And yeah, best practice. So the team that's been running this has done a bunch of events all summer long. So not just my events, including, as I mentioned earlier, the Beckett Summit this week. So much better at getting people on board. And I'm going to reach out where possible to dealers that that have done it for their feedback, good, bad, and indifferent. Mitch talks about a lot of the guys being older in the industry, not tech savvy, but we've had quite a number of those guys do the first one that were super happy with it. They got great support throughout, and they're back for the next. So.
Well, let me just jump in there, Steve, and say, I did the first one. I was an attendee this past week at the Beckett Industry Summit, and they used the same platform called Hopin. And I can tell you, kind of navigating your way around this thing, I found it to be, once you're in there for a couple minutes, you can really understand it. But Steve, can you tell me what is the YouTube channel where you're posting those videos? Because I'll put it up on the screen for everybody to see.
No, I cannot.
When you do, jump in and let me know, and I will add that to the banner so we can share that with everybody.
I'll run it.
Yeah, I didn't mean to take you by surprise there. Facebook user, good evening to you. We have the U.S. Health Advisor Coral Springs satellite office in the house. That might be because of you, Mitch. Welcome to the show. Footy Cards, welcome. AO Rhino, great to see you. Jeff McMahon, hello everyone. Looking forward to another great show. Happy to have you as always. Chris West, good to see you. It's been a while. Orby, good to have you as well. All right, so Mitch, why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of your hobby history? You're obviously the owner promoter of the Chicago Spectacular. It used to be the Sun Times show. Tell us a little bit about the history of that show itself.
The show itself, we've been involved in it since about 1990. It was originally called for many years the Chicago Sun-Times collectible show, because that's one of the two major newspapers in Chicago that sponsored it. We started out, I'm the founder of Mounted Memories back from 1989. So we kind of progressively just rolled into the show, and we used to bring a lot of the talent to the show. So early in 1990, Thurman Thomas, who won the MVP and things like that, we would bring a lot of those players in. And ultimately, we got more and more involved to a point where we started basically having an exclusive on the Autograph Pavilion and bringing in 60, 70, 80 guests. And ultimately to a point where we purchased the show from the original promoter, which was probably around 2000. And then in one way or another, through all the different companies that I've been involved in, I always was the person who ran the show, was the primary person who did all the athletes and whatnot, but ultimately, continued to work the show. And now I'm the sole owner of what's now called the Chicago Sports Spectacular.
Awesome. And what about you yourself in the hobby, Mitch? We chatted the other day. You've been in the hobby for a real long time, and you told me you mentioned one thing to me that I asked you to mention tonight. So I'm going to ask you to just talk about that, because it's something that a lot of us are maybe newer in the hobby than you, and that's just a function of the year we were born. But tell that story quickly. I found that really. I just thought it was interesting
about the rookie cards.
Yeah.
I've just been in the industry because I'm getting really old. That's my problem. But I've been in the industry. Literally ran a show in Florida in 1979. When I was 14 years old, was my first show promoting business. But what I had shared with you was that in 1981. I can remember when Topps came out with their first traded sets, and the big deal was that they were going to be individual rookie cards of Fernando Valenzuela and Tim Raines that had been on triple cards in the regular Topps set. And prior to 81, not that people didn't know what a rookie was. Obviously, you could buy a 1970 Thurman Munson card that said rookies on it, but it was referred to as a player's first card. So people would come in my store and say, "Oh, do you have Mickey Mantle's first card, or Willie Mays' first card, or Hank Aaron's first card?" It was never referred to as the rookie card. And then in 81, when these traded sets came out and these individual cards came out, the terminology rookie card just blew up. And that's when I said, okay, the rookie card craze has become. And from there on, it was in 82, the Ripken rookie card, and 83, the Boggs and the Gwynn, and just so on and so on. It just blew up from there.
Yeah, I love that story, because the term rookie card is at the core of the hobby now.
Sure.
To hear a story from someone who was promoting card shows in the 70s, who remembers when that terminology first came into play, I think that's just really interesting and cool as far as the hobby goes. So thanks for that. Got it, sure. Steve. We have a question here from Billy. This is a great question. He says, "Is there any way as the show promoters to motivate some dealers to participate more instead of linking directly to their eBay auctions? I think a live auction for some higher end cards would be a hit." So I think a lot of that also has to do with, Steve, and you're nodding your head, because I think at the first one, there were several booths where if you went into them, there was a camera just focused on a whiteboard with some words on it, without any human presence. What are you guys? What are you doing to kind of incentivize or just motivate dealers to be more involved at the upcoming virtual?
Yeah, and there's two things, one minor and one much more relevant, I think. The first one is that some of the dealers that did come into the virtual came in pretty last minute. So quite honestly, they didn't have the time or resources to do it properly. There were a few of that. And some of those I did see, and I kind of made notes, and I spoke to the guys post. But the idea of seeing a whiteboard and something didn't really do a lot for them or for the attendees. But the other thing, quite honestly, and there's a ton of analogies between the in-person show and the virtual show. And really, there's two primary things you got to focus on. Have your product ready and have your booth ready. It doesn't matter whether we're in person or online. So, and again, when I mentioned earlier that we now have those stats, when you look at some of the booths that were more engaging, like yours, Amit's, Frameworth is one that I reference a lot as well. Frameworth, they were doing some really great stuff, and they had some auctions, especially later Saturday afternoon, that they were doing from the booth, and they were getting between 80 and 100 people in there, for a couple hours at a time. So, and over the 2 days, Frameworth specifically had more than 800 people in their booth for a total of over 17,000 minutes. That's a lot of face time that you don't get it at most shows. And I don't know what their sales numbers are, but I got to imagine, and they're happy and they're coming back. So I got to imagine that's reflected in their numbers. So it's really about being prepared and being engaging.
Yeah. And one thing I can say as a successful vendor at the last one, it wasn't that difficult to get prepared. So I would encourage all the vendors who are going to be setting up at the upcoming show. It was really as simple as having, I can only speak to selling singles of that are worth your time to have a picture of. So not really set filler common sort of thing, but singles. And what I did is I had a scan of all the cards. I scanned all my cards that were for sale, and I named them in the file name. I put the price, and then I had them all stored in Dropbox. Some people used Google Docs. Some people just linked to their eBay account, which I know was, some people liked it, but I think a lot of people thought that, I could just go on eBay, So I'm a big advocate for having your image documents stored in an image document storing service, like for me, Dropbox. And then you could take a link and you could put that link at the top of your booth chat. All of our booths have their own little chat room. It's really convenient. Yeah. And you can pin to the top of it anything you want. Like if you're having a sale or what have you, I had in there pinned a link to my Dropbox folder. So all the people that came to my booth, as I saw people come in, I'd say, hey, click the link at the top of the chat. It'll take you to my Dropbox and you will see all my cards and the prices are in the file names. And it was extremely successful. Like it was just, people loved it. So I recommend it. And it was simple. At first I thought I'm going to have a second camera on a showcase and I had that set up, but at the end of the day, I just didn't even use it because people could go look at the cards themselves. So it doesn't have to be overwhelming. It doesn't have to be very stressful, but like Steve said, if you're prepared by you having your cards scanned or taking a picture with your phone, either one works, and having them priced, you're going to be able to sell cards. I can personally, as long as your prices are fair, I can almost personally guarantee you're going to sell something because I did it several dozen deals at that last show, and I thought it was very successful. So Steve, what do you want to add to that?
Yeah, it's a great point. And so the couple of things that I did mention earlier to the question of what are we doing to help dealers get on board and to be more successful. We are helping dealers and being more proactive with exactly that, with using Google Docs and other ways for you to organize and be ready for it. So that's part of what we take you through in the demos. But a couple of learnings that I've had over the summer as well. I watched the show that Jeff Wilson, Sports Card Investor, put on over the weekend of the National. And they had it was a very, very different show focus, but they did have some dealer profile each night. And some of them did a really effective job of having their cards there and ready and showing them priced. And it was a bit more hype focused. And in this market being so hot, it's pretty easy to fire up the hype and get people going. So they would show a card and say price, bid now in the chat. And so that's again, part of that being that really engaging. The only other comment I would make is that obviously every booth is different. And this has been part of my learning. Again, as you mentioned at the outset, I bought the show in 2016 and I didn't come from the hobby. So I'm not a collector. So I've had to learn a lot about that. But every dealer sells something different. So while what you're saying works great for guys that have a relatively small number of high value singles and in most cases graded, it's not the same for somebody that does memorabilia or has commons and that kind of stuff, or wax even. So, but that's been part of what I've been doing. Is I had a US guy who did commons and did very, very well, and he's already in for the second, and he set it up perfectly. I had a bunch of guys doing memorabilia, a bunch of guys doing different types of products, and there's another guy who wants to be on the platform but doesn't want to man in the booth all the time. So there's ways in which to do that. So that's what I want to add in.
You say you don't come from the hobby, but I do remember getting an email or a text message from you a week and a half or two ago saying, I think I got to start investing in some things here. I think I got to start collecting. So you are catching the bug, Steve.
Catch the bug.
So another thing I want to mention is that, so this show, last time it was a Friday, Saturday. This time it's going to be a Saturday, Sunday. And we talk about like after the show's over, or you were actually, Steve, you just mentioned when Jeff Wilson had his virtual con at the same weekend of when the National should have been at the beginning of August. He did these dealer features, and these were, I think, in the evening. So the Virtual Expo, it's going to end at a normal hour around dinner time, I believe. But I want everyone to know that Saturday night, myself and Amit are going to be on this show again. So in between the Saturday, Sunday, and we're going to be talking about the show, how it was on Saturday. So just for some more hype, some more excitement around it, I invite everybody to come back, watch that episode with us, because the main episode of Sports Cards Live that night is going to be focused on this Virtual Expo. And we're going to be talking about some of the cards we sold, maybe some of the cards we bought, some of the people we saw, how it flowed, all that sort of thing. So if you're looking to kind of, I hate when card shows end. I want them to go on forever. So if you don't want it to end come November 21st, come back here that night and we will still be talking about it and talking about some of the other vendors, all sorts of things. So check that out. Want to say hello, Thomas Newman. Welcome, Gangsta, to you as well. Facebook user, everyone looking forward to the chat tonight. Great. Hockey says, anyone watching the ball game? Not me. Ken says, do we know how many dealers will participate this time? So what can you guys tell us in terms of vendor count or table count, if you will, at this point? And what do you, and any outlooks for that?
Yeah, I mean, again, part of why I started to talk to Mitch in the first place is I have room to grow. I mean, it's not like a hall where I sell out. I mean, it's digital, so it can definitely grow. And I don't think I'm telling tales of school. The first time, there's still a lot of cost to this. I know when I first announced the show, people were saying, "Well, why isn't it free?" And this is not a free platform. This is not a free world. And so there are costs there. I had good feedback. I had about 55 dealers in total for the first one, but Mitch and I have been talking about that. We should be able to get to 100, but we don't want it, or more even. But we want to be somewhat selective about that. We don't want to be having 90 guys that are doing the same thing. So again, part of what attracted me to Mitch and his show is he's got a wide range of dealers, many of whom are new to my audience, and vice versa.
Okay, next question will be for you, Mitch, in 2 seconds here.
Okay.
Hockey says, the greatest thing about buying online, I don't have to be in crowded expos around people. I mean, I love being in crowded expos and nationals and spectaculars around people. That's where I thrive. But I found a way to enjoy the virtual as well. It's 4-2 Dodgers, for those interested. Colin Murray has a question for Steve. I have loaded up the first ad on the app in the buy sell. It was so easy, going to be a hit. We will be talking about the app shortly. Vintage Oddball Card says, look forward to the expo. Should be fun. We have no shows in the Bay Area. Well, it's just vintage. It's great to hear that we got somebody from the Bay Area that will be there. And, if you weren't there last time, trust me, it's going to be fun. I had a great time. Anonymous YouTube user, I love the name of your account, by the way. The human aspect is part of the appeal of an in-person show. Having the ability to deal face-to-face with a vendor, eBay seller, is worth the virtual expo fee. That's an interesting comment because, first of all, in person is ideal for me, but virtually on video, it's great. And I can tell you from last time, I met a ton of people, and it was an intimate sort of setting. You guys, if you weren't at the first virtual, I can tell you, come by my booth and let's talk about it. You're going to enjoy this show. It is fun. I mean, I don't know. It's like I feel like I'm a pitch man. I'm not. I have no interest in the show other than I set up at it and I enjoy it, guys. But I'm telling you, it's really enjoyable. Mitch, I want to know from you, sort of, because you're the new for the virtual this year, or not this year, this winter.
This go around.
Yeah. What are you sort of doing from you with your mailing list in terms of promoting and marketing this thing such that vendors are going to maybe anticipate some new attendees from new geographical areas this time?
Well, in general, we do a tremendous amount of social media marketing for our show. I would arguably say maybe the most of, within the states that I know of any of the shows out there. So we're just driving that home. We're putting out advertisements about the virtual. Of course, we're talking about the live, and if and when that comes back next March, we play that by ear. It'll be a state-by-state scenario. But we're basically talking to people that, this is here to stay. The world is changing, and even when the live shows come back, the virtual will be a part of it. And I think Steve and I have had many discussions about, they'll become synonymous with each other. You'll have a live show in March and maybe a virtual April or May and something like that, and different ideas and ways that we can, have symmetry between the virtual and the live. So we've just been promoting that from a consumer base, and basically on the dealer side saying, get in at the ground level, get in at the foundation. Because like we've talked about, we do want a diverse makeup. We don't want 50 guys all selling autographed mini helmets. So it is going to be a limited, although it's virtual, so we can build it out. Again, we're not limited to tables. We still want to have a nice mix for the public coming in. So we see the virtual and the live shows going hand in hand for years to come.
Yeah, so do I. I think there's definitely a place for it, even once live shows come back. And if they're ever the way they once were, I still think there's room for virtual because, again, not everybody can fly to Chicago or Toronto for a card show. Whether it's the expo, the spectacular, the national, anything else. The virtual actually provides a gateway for everybody in the hobby who has a computer which or a phone, even because. And before I go on, is the virtual accessible on an iPhone or an Android phone?
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely is. One of the great things about the platform is cloud-based. So that's a great thing. It makes it super easy. One of the things that I tell dealers initially when you're going in to get used to the platform, it's better to view it on a PC or a laptop, just because of the functionality and everything else. But yeah, 100%. And I don't have the stats in front of me, but again, with those enhanced statistics that I got from the enterprise version, I think it was about 30% of the views were on app for the first show. So,
yeah, that's awesome. So,
yeah.
I mean, the format itself, the platform itself, and I want to talk about that and kind of let people kind of understand what does this thing look like? Because I'm guessing not everybody watching attended or set up at the first one. So we want to kind of go through the different sort of modules, if you will, or sections of the Virtual Expo. And it's important to know, like, the platform it's on is called Hopin, Hopin, right? So I have to think if anyone's looking for any kind of previews as to what this platform looks like, so that you can be a little bit ahead of the game in terms of knowing how to navigate it if you're unable to attend sort of an orientation that these guys are putting together, or if you're unable to watch some of these videos that we will direct you to on YouTube by the end of the show. Check it out. Just maybe do a YouTube search for the Hopin platform, Hopin, and see what it's like. But it's really cool. And I'm fortunate. I was a part of the first virtual, and then again at the Beckett Industry Summit just this week, I got to kind of reacquaint myself with that platform and use all of its features, which I didn't do the first time, but this time I did. And that's kind of what I want to mention to you guys are sort of some of the different areas of this platform. So, do you mind if I just keep talking about this, gentlemen, and kind of let people? Yeah. Okay. So, and before I do that, we're just going to say a few more hellos. Card Collector, good evening to you. Legion says, I really enjoyed the last expo. Like Jeremy said, you've got some one-on-one time with the dealers, got to sit in on some podcast-like discussions. Overall, it was a blast, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Hockey says, if I pay for a flight ticket and hotel, that is just another card I can't buy. I hear you. I hear you, and that's why virtual is great. Thomas Newman says, especially if everyone's selling with the Virtual Card Expo is certified through you guys, so everyone feels comfortable. That's an important thing too, because you don't always get that if you're doing deals on a Facebook or an Instagram or or even like your Kijiji or your Craigslist, that sort of thing. So that's a great point, Tom. I appreciate that. Colin says it is just as fun as in person. That's a huge statement. In the comfort of your own home, no travel, home cooking, zero chance of getting ripped off. Very true. Billy Celio of Upper Deck, welcome to the show, says, I'm looking forward to the virtual again. I'm going to miss watching people opening up UD1, but not going to miss Jeremy and Amit staring at our booth all day. What are you trying to say, Billy? What are you trying to say? I'm too busy to stare at your booth, even though I set up kitty corner from it at the expo. Okay, so, the platform itself, obviously there are, you walk into the, and Steve, what's the main area called? Is it called the expo?
It's just called reception. Yeah, so there's reception, and then there are four other key areas. There's the main stage, which is, as the name implies, where the big guest Q&As or the case breaks or any of the presentations and so on are on the main stage. And tell me if I'm going too long in the description, but I'll try and keep it brief for each. So what's cool about the main stage, you can actually broadcast you can have up to 100,000 people viewing. So we haven't pushed that yet, obviously. I would love to. And it's also, it's great because you can simultaneously push that out onto other platforms. YouTube, Twitch, Breakers TV, anything you want to do can be pushed out onto those channels. So that's pretty cool. They're all recorded for future use. So we had Austin Matthews on the podcast with Ultimate Leafs fan and Squid in the first show. So that was great. We had, that lives on YouTube now as well. And it, what was my point on that? We recorded it and pushed it out live. We can edit it afterwards. So there's the main stage. There are then session rooms. What's key about the session rooms is that You can have up to, depending on how many screens you want, you can have up to 20 people on the like talking to us right now, or you can be presenting. We used the session rooms primarily last time for the VIP meet and greets. So after Phil Esposito gave his Q&A, if you had bought a one-on-one video meet and greet with Phil Esposito, you'd have been given a password to enter into a private session room where you enter into the Q&A, and then you got a copy of that video, etc. So there's main stage, session rooms. The expo is, again, the name implies, where all the booths are. And the booths are arranged alphabetically by category. So the sponsor is the premium booths and the regular booths listed that way. Yeah. And that's where you literally can visit each one. I'll get to the booths a bit later. I don't want to talk too long, but and then the other feature, which I know you discovered and I've used much more this week at the Beckett Summit, was the networking. And really, best way to describe that is speed dating. But you get a variable time limit, typically up to about 3 minutes to connect randomly with somebody. And it's pretty cool. You share what to connect on, and you either talk through it and follow up, or you don't. So those are the main platforms. And then on the other side of that, literally and figuratively, there is an event chat. So literally anybody appearing at the event is can post in the event chat. And think of that as well as a PA system. We as the organizers can promote, can pin chats to the top of that throughout. So we can say appearing in 15 minutes on stage, or the Jordan rookie that that Jeremy bought on Saturday is now going to be flipped for 20% profit on Sunday. We can pin that. So there's that chat. There's booth chats, and then there's the ability to private chat as well. So if you're presenting to a few people in your booth and somebody's saying, yeah, you know what, I want that card, but I want to negotiate, you can go into a private chat or even a private video chat as well. And then there's a people tab that allows you to track and find everyone from who's attending, and also our staff. So we have staff, 8 to 10 staff that are on board the whole time. And you can look up if you have any kind of an issue or question.
And I can tell you that at the Beckett Industry Summit, which, again, use the same platform, and Steve, you were part of that event staff. You helped them out with that platform. I can tell you that the event staff was everywhere. And what I mean by that is in the event chat, in the booth chat, or some of the exhibitor booths, they had their own chat rooms. You'd see the event staff coming in there and making sure everything was okay. So they were really supportive. But I want to paint Steve just took us through some of these different areas, and I kind of want to paint the picture, like, what does this actually look like? So, like, literally imagine your Chrome window or your web browser. On the left-hand navigation panel, there's like 4 or 5 icons. One of them says main stage. You click it, it takes you to the main stage. One of them will say sessions. You click it, it'll open up a new screen, and you'll see different squares that'll tell you what's going on in those sessions. If you click on one of those, it'll take you into that room, and you can see the people on the screen talking. Like Panini had a panel discussion at the Industry Summit this week, and you would see 4 or 5 people from Panini in there just talking about whatever their agenda had on it. And then down further, you have the networking icon on the left-hand navigation pane. You click on it, and it opens up a screen, and it says, click when ready. And you click it, and it searches for somebody else who's looking to network. And then all of a sudden, you're on screen with some stranger, or maybe someone you know. Funny enough, I hit it, and Steve came on my screen, and he was the guy I got paired up with at one point. But I found it really useful for myself, because I used that to find more guests for this show. I'd click it, someone would show up on the screen. They'd be like, hey, I have a store in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I'd be, oh, that's really cool. I do a YouTube show called Sports Cards Live. I'm, looking for more guests, that sort of thing. And it was really successful for that. So, but as far as a card show goes, I could see people using that to be, hey, what do you have to trade? What do you collect? Maybe I have something for you. So while as a vendor, I might not love it, because I'd rather you were looking through my inventory, I think it's really cool. And it adds kind of like at a card show, you go into the food area, and there's a bunch of tables set up, and you see collectors sitting together. That's really what that is. It's almost like a roulette trade night, if you will. You just don't know who you're going to come across. But I really enjoyed it at the Industry Summit, and I think it was underutilized at the last virtual, and I think people should utilize it a little bit more this time. And then What else was there? I guess those are really. Oh, and then there's the expo itself, or what Steve called, or what will be called reception. If you click on on the reception icon on the left-hand navigation panel, it's going to bring you into the show, and you kind of think of that as the map of all the booths. And like Steve said, there'll be an alphabetical order by category, and you just scroll through, and you'll see all the logos of all the vendors. You click on it, and it'll take you into that room, which is similar to what you're seeing on your screen right now. You'll see me up there in the corner, and maybe you'll see 3 other people sitting in the room with me, and we're just talking because they asked to come on the screen with me. And it really makes it quite welcoming. At the last virtual, there were times I had 6 or 7 people on screen with me, and we were just chatting away. And if someone was watching the booth, so you don't have to come on screen, you can click on a booth. The vendor won't know you're there. They'll see that there's eyeballs on their screen because there's a little indicator saying how many people are watching, but we don't know who you are. So you can be anonymous, which is fine. It's kind of like you're walking by a booth at a card show, but you're not really, you're walking by, you're looking in the showcases, and you keep on going. I kind of consider it like that. You're browsing. But if you want to do a deal with the vendor, you want to inquire about one of their cards, you can do 2 things. You can click a button that says request to share video and audio. And then as a vendor, I can click accept, and you'll show up on screen just like Steve and Mitch are with me right now. Or you can type something in the chat room for my booth. You can say, hey, how much do you want for this card? Or, hey, whatever. Can I buy this card from you for $10,000? Sure, you can. No problem. So, and then we can go off into a separate private chat and work out the details of the deal. So, I'm just trying to paint a picture of what this thing looks like for those of you who haven't been in there and haven't watched any of the videos yet. It's really functional. I think it's a perfect platform for a virtual show. And I just hope that a bunch of you guys really check it out and enjoy it, because it was thoroughly enjoyable, and the platform is really good. It's really this platform, Steve, because you researched all this earlier in 2020. It's a trade show platform, right?
It absolutely is. And I say that to people that this isn't new technology. It's been around for some time. Obviously, it's gone through the roof because of the the supply and demand issue. But it's new to the hobby. And to be clear, I didn't do the research, but my team, Mikey and his team, who also did all the heavy lifting on the Beckett show as well, did the research. But yeah, I jumped in early. I did want to make a point that you made me think of. I hadn't talked about earlier in terms of a learning from the first event, because it's important to the dealers that were there. And I think I've talked to most people about it. But one of the things that we experienced very early on in the first virtual was in the event chat. You had a ton of people posting, okay, I've got this for sale, and here's my eBay store, that weren't set up as vendors. And that would be like somebody coming in and setting up a booth outside of the door of the expo hall. Obviously that's not cool at any level, and I wanted to support my dealers. So we obviously reined that in, and we changed it. But one of the things we did in terms of both immediately getting people to stop doing that, like reaching out to them directly. But what we also did was we set up one of the session rooms as a trading room. So we actually put a couple of trading events where we opened up a session room for an hour and promoted it on the event chat. Hey, if you want to do that, you can run this in this room at this time. And that was successful, and it supported the dealers who paid to be there. And that's important to do. So
that's great. Yeah, I think that's a great step in the right direction. I heard that complaint myself.
Yep.
And I think that's something that great step by you guys. Mitch, I'm kind of curious. So you're new to the virtual. How have you found the platform to be, as you have? I haven't discussed this with you, but I'm assuming you've checked it out by now to see kind of what you're involved
once or twice.
Yeah. Tell us, as someone who maybe saw it for the first time more recently, how did you find it, and what are you excited about in terms of the platform itself?
It's a tremendous platform. Like I said, I'm not a tech guy. I'm not, I do my occasional Zoom meetings here and there, but I'm not a user. And I found it extremely user-friendly. Steve took me through it. I've sat through numerous, as my wife, who helps me run the show in Chicago, the demos. And just like you said, it's being prepared. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. you start realizing, you're intimidated at first, but all of a sudden you click this and, oh, there's actually something there. And, it happens. And, it's internet. And if something goes wrong, you pop right back on and you come back to life, so to speak. So it seems like an incredible platform from everything that I've spoken to prior to getting together with Steve, and then moving forward since. Hopin seems like it's the platform to do this on. And I'm real excited to be involved.
Awesome. And one thing I'll say, so the first time we did it, Steve, at the virtual in June, I remember, I'd have people in my booth with me on my screen. So again, anyone else who was browsing would come by and they'd see, oh, there's that must be the guy whose booth it is, because it says Jeremy right there. And there's 3 or 4 other guys there, and they could come in and they could kind of just listen to us talking, watch us talking about whatever we're talking about. But there was some echoes. I was noticing there were some echoes. Sometimes people had 2 windows open. I want to say that I don't know what happened between then and this past week, but I didn't notice any of those issues at the industry summit. And I don't know if that's because the people that were taking part in it would mute one window if they had another one open, or what it was, but it was just so much smoother than the first time. So maybe that's an improvement to the Hopin platform. I'm not sure. It doesn't really matter, but I just want to say that worked out really well. But that brings me to another point that, I could, if you're an attendee at the show and you have 2 screens in your, on your desk, you can have one screen where you're browsing the reception or the expo itself, going from booth to booth, and you can have another screen up or another browser window with the main stage. So speaking of the main, and that's awesome because you can multitask. With that said, Steve, who are some of the athletes you guys have booked to appear on the main stage a month from now?
Just in case I forget to address it, it's pretty important. What you just mentioned about the multiple cameras, it's also a critical component for dealers setting up booths. So as you know, you can have multiple cameras set up in your booth. Now, many people just set up because they're working from home. They set up their booth from their home camera. But even with that, you can have your webcam on your camera. You can have a cell phone if you're walking around your room to show other pieces, or even if you want to do it as a breaker might, show the front and the back of a card or that kind of detail. But beyond that, you can even go further. So if you wanted to be at home, but you have a bricks and mortar store and you wanted somebody working in your store to be doing that, you can have multiple locations tapping into the same booth. So great functionality that way. And literally almost anything you can imagine wanting to set up, you can. You can run shared video through that. You can create loops for when you're not in the booth and that kind of thing. So sorry. I just want to mention that because that again is key, and I've got a good memory, but it's short, so I wanted to hit on it. And so one of the great things again about Mitch, and part of why I reached out to him in the first place, was that he's got deep roots in the hobby, and a big part of that, as he mentioned a bit at the outset, is with respect to guests and experience with that. Even now with my expo, I don't own the pavilion. I basically lease it out, and I'm kind of the house, and I kind of promote it and drive everything, but I don't know enough about that piece. Mitch does, and he's got great contacts. And actually, I mean, I'd love, Mitch, you want to speak about who's coming, and because you again know both of them.
And by pavilion, Steve means the autograph pavilion. Just to be crystal clear,
right? Mitch. The autograph area we call the autograph pavilion at our shows. Yeah. We've just announced this week. We're not giving away too much. We'll have some more names. We really just have announced our 2 spokesmen for the show, and we have the Golden Jet, Bobby Hall, obviously great Hall of Fame career, and Chicago Blackhawks, and we also have longtime Montreal Expo and Chicago Cub Hall of Famer Andre Dawson. So those are our 2 spokespeople, and you're going to start to see them doing some virtual advertisements that are out and that they've put together. We'll have some additional names coming later this week, upcoming week. I don't want to spoil anything right at the moment, but there'll be some interesting guests. Not only sports, we'll have some non-sports, some celebrities along those lines. So I think there'll be some cool ideas. And we talked about earlier, you'll be able to do one-on-one video chats, get personalized items, inscribed items, all kinds of unique things, just like at a regular live show.
So Steve, how, I'm curious because I was part of the first one. I'm part of the second one. You brought Mitch in, and you guys have kind of just tonight, you've already sort of mentioned, I reached out to him. How did you guys really connect? What was the what made you, Steve, reach out to Mitch, or did Mitch reach out to you? How did that come about? You know, inquiring minds want to know, how is this thing? Because you're elevating it to the next level now by bringing Mitch on and involving him with you. How did that all come about?
No, it was pretty pragmatic at the outset, and with no offense to you, Mitch, I realized I wanted growth. So it was really growth by acquisition, if you will, or you know, as opposed to making it organic and trying to talk to 5 or 10 or 20 more dealers. All right, what can I do? Again, just given that this is now virtual, given that many of my dealers are still hockey focused, what can I do that would move this up? And again, there's not a big window between June and November, and even post that in terms of how much time I had to make this work. It was really, all right, what can I do to make this happen? And through Joel Alpert, I said, hey, can you introduce me to Mitch? And it was that simple. I reached out and kind of made a call. Mitch was receptive, and here we are.
I didn't take his first 4 phone calls, and I finally said, give it a shot.
It took me a while to get the first few no's anyway. So
that's kind of funny because Joel Alpert is completely unrelated. I know Joel just my own without either of you guys, and he happens to be the guest on my show a week from today. So that's pretty funny. Maybe I'll ask him what that was like. And Mitch, from your end of things, sort of, what did you first think? What were you in right away? Did you have to talk about it with your team? Tell us a bit about how you how you decided to come on board.
Yeah, so obviously when the live went down in March, I mean, we were the guinea pigs. My dealers were set up in the room in March when the governor on dealer setup night came on at 5 o'clock and said, shutting down anything over 250 people. And that was like Thursday night at 5 p.m. And, like I said, half my dealers in the room were set up. So we were it, and was like, okay, what do we do? So, at that point, we basically set up new dates for May, June, July, figuring this is going to be short-lived and we'd be right back at it. Obviously, that didn't happen. And then we've never figured there's no way we'll have to worry about November. So, all of a sudden now July comes along and we know we're not doing a show. And I start, thinking about what are the other options. And I had heard that Steve had run this show. And like I said, I had known about the Toronto show. I was with Fanatics, and Fanatics had done Steve's show actually several times while I was still there before I had gone. And so I was familiar with the show, phenomenal show. And I heard he had run a virtual. I was not part of it. And then when a mutual friend, Joel, obviously kind of put us together, Steve and I spoke, and I said, look, I've been talking about it. I don't even know what a virtual show really means, because like I said, I'm not in the tech world, but I know you've run one. I've heard great things about it. It was successful. And he was like, hey, I would love to expand into North America, and we have one of the largest shows. And we just kind of said, this seems to make sense. And we hit it off, and went from there, and just been bouncing ideas off and how to grow this thing. And like we said earlier, I think it'll be here to stay. I think it'll be just a piece of the live as we go forward, almost a way to interact with your customers year round in between the lives.
Yeah.
We were excited about being involved.
That's great. I was going to ask you if you had been considering any virtual type event yourself before you met Steve, but you just mentioned to me that you started thinking about it in July and heard he did it. So that takes care of that. Let's go to some more comments and questions. We did touch on it, but we'll touch on it again because we'll ask you both to speak to this one. So Billy, also known as Cardboard Nostalgia, says, Steve, you mentioned previously you don't collect, but with increased interest in sports cards during 2020 and money flowing into the hobby, have you invested in any cards? So that's a great. Have you, Steve? Have you bought a single sports card this year?
I've made two answers. Yes, at the National, I purchased not cars, memorabilia. I'm kind of drawn to older stuff, so I have a particular penchant for pens, and you like what I did there, the alliteration. And I have some pretty cool old pens, but no, just in the last 2 months, I've made 3 card purchases. I bought I don't even know which one it was. I'm going to make me look. I bought a George Armstrong autograph card. I bought a Matthews Young Guns, and I bought what did I buy? My first set, it was a O-Pee-Chee 75 or 76 set, I think.
Okay.
So Yeah, no rhyme or reason. Just if I like
you've
a couple things, I've bought them. So
you've dabbled, you've been dabbling. And Mitch, we know about your history with the show. What about yourself in the hobby? I mean, you mentioned you set up shows in 1979. You set up your first card show. Are you a collector? Do you collect now? Do you invest? What's your approach to the hobby?
I have collecting in my blood. My dad did. I think he passed that down. I collect everything. We're all kinds of eclectic. If you came to my house, you can see behind me, the Simpsons are sitting. They're life size. So there is everything and anything in my house, from sports to like Beatles, McDonald's, you name it. I collect it. My first set I purchased was a 1954 top set. Loved the set, paid $500 for it. Couldn't believe that I actually was going to spend that kind of money on a baseball card set. Sold it for $700 about 2 years later. Thought I was the smartest guy in the world. Made a fortune, $200, and the rest is history, as they say there. So, yeah, I mean, I've got all kinds of stuff over the years that I personally collect, things that I put away for investment. Obviously, being involved in, like I said, the founder of Mounted Memories, which is a large autograph company, a lot of autograph product over the years. But like I said, yeah, I've got the collecting bug. It's definitely in my genes.
And do you want to tell us a little bit about your days with Fanatics and sort of how that?
Fanatics, it just rolls backwards. So 1989, I started Mounted Memories. We had become the largest wholesale, basically manufacturer of autograph memorabilia and acrylic display cases in the country. We would sell from everybody from mom pop stores to, if you watch QVC and saw Super Bowl shows, it was our product that was on. We would supply the guests. If the Cowboys won and Emmitt Smith was on, he was there courtesy of Mounted Memories. In 1998, 99, I believe, we actually did a merger with a public company called Dreams Inc., which owned the Field of Dreams stores throughout the country at the time, which I'm sure many fans in all the high-end malls like Caesars Forum Shops and Mall of the Americas in Minnesota. And then later on, basically in 2012, we ultimately sold the company to Fanatics. And I stayed on as their vice president of memorabilia for 5 years till 2017. And then in 2017, decided to purchase the show outright, which we mentioned earlier, and a few other ventures that I still dabble in, representing certain players for autographs along those lines. That's how we got here today.
Awesome. Okay. No, good to know. We're going to go to a few more comments now that have come in for the last half an hour almost. So I'm behind on them, but I do want to address them. We have Amit 99 goals. Virtual Expo will be a blast. I am so looking forward to it. Amit will be joining me later tonight on this channel. And it was another successful vendor at the first Virtual Expo. Chris says virtual is great because did we do this one? No. Virtual is great because it enables those unable to afford the travel, etc., to visit the show and purchase items. Yes, of course. Ken says the virtual is a great thing that you were doing, but I can't wait to get back to the in-person show. Same here. Brian Palmer, welcome to the show. Good evening, gentlemen. There's nothing like an in-person show, but I'm still very excited about the Virtual Expo. Spectacular. Great event staff. Is that Mikey? Welcome to the show, Mikey. Good to see you. And yes, the event staff was awesome at the Industry Summit, and I'm sure they'll be awesome again at the virtual coming up later in November. Colin says, we now know names will show up. Awesome. Paul Cashman, I like browsing while listening to Jeremy and Meet chatting with visitors. Was like a real card show. That's a great comment for anybody watching who hasn't been to the last one and wants to come. He's, I like browsing while listening. So he obviously had two windows open, whether he was watching my booth or Amit's booth, and we were talking to whoever was in there, he could be in there, have like a live stream podcast going, and then be browsing the show itself at the same time. You can't do that at a card show. So that's pretty cool. Paul says, good evening. That must be my buddy Darcy's in the background there, right there. That must be Darcy. Welcome to the show, Darcy. Amit, Billy, you need to come hang out with us one day. Yes, for sure. Amit says, I've owned a show before. My hat's off to you both. I definitely think you do a great job, and I appreciate your efforts. That's great. This is important. So we got Mikey, who is one of the facilitators of the platform. So he's saying the platform has improved over the past 6 months. More control for the moderators, or a camera over a case on a tripod, adding and removing to it throughout the event, similar to what you would do during a live event. That's really great stuff right there. Terry's excited that we got the Golden Jet and the Hawk coming out. Absolute. Mike, welcome to the show. Good evening to you. I would like to take some credit for his. Okay, so sometimes the people in the chat talk to each other, and I see it, and I put it on screen, and then okay, these guys are just talking to each other, which happens a lot, and that's great. But we don't need to look at all. We don't need to see it all. Amit does want to sell Steve a copy of his own rookie card, which he does have. Chris West has a question for Mitch. Is that a Three Stooges cut autograph set framed behind you?
It is a Three Stooges autograph checks. It is a set of, it has Shemp, Mo, Larry, and Shemp, and they are autograph individual checks. So yes, like I said, I collect everything. Three Stooges is among them. I also own a frame shop, so I do a lot of custom framing. So that was framed by us there. But yes, that's a Three Stooges vintage piece for sure.
Awesome. Okay, here's a question from Joe. This is kind of a more hobby, state of the hobby kind of thing. He says, with so much longevity in the hobby, I was just wondering if Mitch has any reflections on the ways in which collectors have or haven't changed throughout the decades. Mitch, is that something that you can kind of speak to off the cuff here?
Yeah, I think the biggest change is now, and let's call it the chase product that's in cards. Prior to in the early 90s, when the rookie card boom hit, like we talked about earlier, from 81 and into the mid and late 80s, when cards were on fire, there really were no chase cards. And you always had your collector who was still coming in with his list and of 72s, and he needs these 4, and he's working with his son to complete the set. But then when 1990-91 came and the industry just went down and card companies actually were on the verge of going out of business, credit to them. They came up with different types of chase and all of that. And we saw a different mentality come back into the industry. And I want to say it's a gambling mentality, because now what you see young and old alike go to a table and buy a box of cards. I don't care if it's a 50.
Yeah, he just froze for a sec. He'll be back. Mitch is frozen for a moment. That's okay. While Mitch is coming back to us, we will go to some more comments. Brian says, the Meets rookie card auto is the cornerstone type of card. I own several copies. Mikey wants to know, what is each of your favorite cards and why? So I don't know, Mikey, if you're pitching that to Steve. Steve has 3 cards. We already know what they are, so I don't know if he has a favorite yet.
But I do love sort of 60s era Topps baseball, and I do love the Parkies, the early Parkies. I like the graphic design and the that stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I hear you. If I were down to that, I was thinking about it today because I was listening to a podcast. So we must have lost Mitch. Hopefully he'll come back in. I was listening to a podcast earlier today about, it's called the Basketball Card Podcast. It's by my buddy Adam, who does also the Basketball Card Fanatic magazine. He's the Real 27 guy on Instagram. And he did an article in his most recent magazine about the top 10 most iconic basketball cards in the history of basketball. And he had 15 different guys rank them. And anyway, I started thinking to myself, what would I consider to be the most iconic hockey card? I'm a hockey card guy first and foremost. So to me, what's the most iconic hockey card of all time? Without even thinking about it, I didn't have to think about it. It's the Wayne Gretzky rookie card to me. It pops into my mind immediately as the #1 most iconic hockey card, followed by the Bobby Orr rookie card. And then after that, I know people out there, there's all sorts of arguments for whether it's the George Vezina or it's the Gordie Howe or it's the Sidney Crosby Young Guns. Maybe it's a Jacques Plante rookie card. Maybe it's the Mario Lemieux, the Patrick Waugh. It could be one of dozens, the Rocket Richard. Who knows? But to me, the most iconic hockey card is the Wayne Gretzky rookie card. And there might only be one or it might be one of the top 5 most iconic cards in the history of the hobby, in my opinion. I mean, you got the 52 Topps Mickey Mantle, the 86 Fleer Michael Jordan, a few others, but really what else is going to be is up there? Terry says, Jeremy, stop pumping the Gretzky rookie. Well, why should I stop? I'm not pumping it, Terry. I'm just speaking the truth. Coming from a guy, Terry, who has about 100 of these things. So I don't know why you want me to stop pumping it, Terry. It's good for you, but I'm not pumping anything. I'm just talking about what I think is the most iconic card, and it's clearly the Wayne Gretzky rookie card, in my opinion. What does Mikey say? It's like trying to buy a pack of paintings with one having the potential of being a masterpiece. Yeah, see, that's a good comment based on what Mitch was saying before he unceremoniously had to leave us. Just that, it's the hobby has gone a lot to the gamble. versus the filling in your binder pages with those few comments you need to fill in your 63 Topps baseball set or your 75 O-Pee-Chee hockey set or your 86 Fleer basketball set.
Right.
It's gone to the gamble. So that's an interesting analogy that you come up with there, Mikey. Chris says it's the Zygmunt Palffy rookie card, Jeremy. Everyone needs 3 at least. That's a running inside joke. A lot of you won't get that, but that I do. That's funny. Steve, you know what? Hopefully Mitch does come back. In the meantime, why don't you tell us a little bit about the other sort of side, I don't know if it's a side project, a complementary project, but it's really I think it's a big deal what you have going on. It's the Sports Card Expo app. Why don't you tell everybody what this thing's all about?
Yeah, no, I'd be. I'm more than happy to, because I'm super excited about it. Again, I've jumped into something I know next to nothing about, but probably actually about a year ago, I started to look at this project. So obviously, it was something that was pre-pandemic, and given my show background from prior to owning the Sport Card Expo, obviously I've seen show apps before, and I was kind of lukewarm on them, and I really I saw it as a digital brochure more than anything, and I didn't really see the need to invest in that. But I was approached by a company that knows the hobby exceptionally well and also knows the app space exceptionally well, and convinced me kind of what the opportunity might be. So we dove into it last November, and
we're back. We're back.
Oh, he's back. Perfect.
Well, welcome back. Keep going, Steve.
We're having a major storm. I don't know if that's ultimately what knocked this out, but last time I paid for high-speed internet. I don't know if I'm good.
Well, welcome back, Mitch. Steve, pick up where you left off.
Yeah. So, and obviously, once COVID hit, I put the app on hold, and a month or two after that, I got back into discussions with the development group, and they really started to push hard on the buy-sell functionality. So, again, I'll do a bit of a detour on this, but when I was looking at platforms, when Mikey was looking at platforms for this, and I was the beneficiary of his hard work, my main goal was I didn't care. Yeah, it would have been nice to have. I didn't care as much about the visual presentation. So there's platforms out there where you can get 3-dimensional presentations of rooms and stages and everything else, and that's kind of cool. But it's a bell and or a whistle. My goal first and foremost is to be able to have a platform through which dealers could buy and sell. Ultimately, the dealers are the backbone of my show and every show, and they were my primary stakeholder in the decision. So that's what drove that. So fast forward then to the app comment again. The key thing for me in that was to offer the same thing, a couple different things. So part of my goal with the expo is to grow it, obviously, but to grow it in a lot of different ways. Right now, in simple business terms, it's a 6-day-a-year property, and there aren't many businesses going to make money 6 days a year. But I'm not saying that it isn't good. I'm not happy with it, but there's more opportunity. And I know that 99.999% of my dealers aren't buying and selling only on those 6 days a year. So the buy and sell became a key focus of the app, and so that's what's been really driving it. And obviously, COVID has accelerated that much more. And again, we've talked already this evening about what happens post COVID. So when we're back to normal, or whatever modified new normal is, I see the app as being something that's going to be around 24/7, 365. So it's brand extension for me. It's an opportunity for dealers to buy and sell throughout. And it's an opportunity for collectors to have a marketplace through which to buy and sell ongoing. So,
is this something that we as regular expo attendees or spectacular attendees that we can actually download onto our phone right now? Is it live for the public right now?
It went live yesterday, so it's approved on late yesterday. It was approved on both the iOS and the Apple and the Android stores. So yes, I haven't promoted it yet, but I wanted to make sure it was up and live. My first step is going to be dealer outreach to get people to download it in advance, so that when I do start the push, that there's more there'll be more dealers loaded in there. Similarly, to start to load buy and sell pieces. Shameless plug here a little bit. So part of what we're doing with the virtual is dealers that sign up for the virtual are going to get free access to the app for the first 90 days. So that benefits all, but so that's part of what I'm trying to get set up as well.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Go back to a few of the comments that have come up. Bobby Burrell, welcome, says the most iconic card is based on age demographic, and that's interesting because I agree. I mean, we can. And Mitch, this is when you were gone, when you had to take a short break.
We were talking about break, right?
Iconic cards. So we'll just speak to this for momentarily here. And I agree with Bobby. It's like, if you're 30 years or younger, the most iconic card might not be a Wayne Gretzky rookie card. It might be the Crosby for hockey. It might be the Crosby baseball. It might be Jeter instead of Mickey Mantle, or instead of Ricky Henderson, whoever it was. And there's not a lot of huge 70s baseball rookies out there, but as I try and appeal to all sports fans. But yeah, I agree. But if you did have to think, if you had to make a list, and it's fun making lists of what is the most iconic card of all time in terms of us sport. In hockey, I'd still vote for the Gretzky rookie, but that's just me. Amit says it's a gamble to go to grocery store these days. I have no issue gambling on wax. Yeah, why not, right? If you like it, you like it. And hey, if there aren't people willing to open up the wax, there's no secondary singles market. So I very much support people who open up the wax. Definitely. Chris West, right here. Chris West says, question for Steve. What about the hobby has surprised you the most? Good question.
You want me to answer that now?
Yeah. If you have an answer ready to go, I think I know what it is, because you and I have sort of had a discussion about it before, and I'm wondering if you're going to clue into that particular thread or not.
I'm not catching it. The first thing I go to, and partly because it came up in the Beckett Summit this week, is that for a hobby based on passion, I'm continually surprised and underwhelmed by how much negativity there is. And when I was running, Fan Expo and the Comic Cons before, we used to talk to SAD and say, look, guys, we're not curing cancer here. We are supporting in a good way. We are enabling people to enjoy the community, the hobby, and everything else. So fucking smile, have fun. Let them have fun. And I get the passion cuts both ways, so you can't just ask for positive passion. But that's part of it. I would say that's probably it.
Okay. And what I was thinking, Steve, was we had the discussion where you said to me, because the first time I think I met you, I said, hey, how's it going? I'm Jeremy. This is at the expo. And I said, all right, just, mark me down, same booth, same place next time. You got my credit card on file. We're done. I don't need to show up at 8 a.m. the next morning to book my booth. I've never done that. I want my same booth, same time forever. That's kind of what I said. And I think one of the things you thought was surprising about the hobby was that we're pretty, kind of set in our ways. We want, we have locations at these shows. We don't want to be moved around. And I think it was a lot about the community that you really thought surprised you, that it's not just guys coming into a trade show, setting up and going home. There's people in that room have relationships. There are communities, whether they're in person or online. I thought you were really impressed by that. I want to let everybody know Mikey Singer has joined us. He's backstage. Mikey, I know you can hear me right now. I'm happy to bring you on screen, so I'll bring you on in a couple seconds here. We're just going to get through a couple comments, and we'll bring you on, Mikey. Just give me 2 minutes here. Okay, yeah. Peter says the Gretzky rookie is the bridge between current and vintage as well. That makes sense to me. And here's a question from Billy. He says, in terms of foot traffic, have you guys noticed an increase since you purchased your respective shows pre-COVID? So really interesting, for you, Steve, from 2016 up until COVID, how has the attendance at the expo changed?
Actually, I had a very small, when I say that, between 2 to 7% uptick, not each show, but in the first 3 years. So I did see that.
So that's some growth.
Yeah.
What about you, Mitch? How have the last 3 or 4 years gone at your show in terms of attendance?
It's been increasing steadily. Again, I've been in it long enough, like I said, that I've seen peaks and valleys when memorabilia was the hot thing, and we had 90% memorabilia dealers in the room as opposed to card dealers, and now cards have come all the way back. But as far as the public, obviously with social media, branching out because we were doing shows long before social media, the ability to reach so many people. For example, we had the Undertaker back in November, and we don't have too many wrestlers, but the element, the different type of demographic that came out to see him were not normal card show people. Even though they lived in and around the Chicago area, they hadn't seen him before, and I might not see him again after. So a lot of it depends on the guest selection and things along those lines as well. But as a whole, to answer your question, a pretty dramatic increase year over year over the last couple of years pre-COVID.
Awesome. Okay, Mikey, check the private chat for a second, please. And then, Steve, do you expect a recovery? And this is something that was on our agenda to talk about. Is like, what's going to happen post-pandemic and COVID in terms of 2021? Do you guys expect a recovery, a card show recovery, a live card show recovery? Are you booking venues and dates? Mitch, start with you.
We already have our date set. We have our March date set, and then our November doesn't vary. It's always the weekend prior to Thanksgiving. So our 2021 dates are already set. So yes, we're expecting, obviously day by day and state by state. So who knows what that's going to be. But my expectation is there's a lot of pent up energy and, looking forward to live as well as this, virtual. So I think we'll be able to come back. Obviously it'll be a different scenario, and whether it's social distancing and everything else that goes along with it that we've all learned that we have to put into place. Maybe there'll be less guests as opposed to packing them in, for 3 straight days. But yeah, I think that there's a great demand for the live shows, and I think if they'll come back as they're allowed to come back, they'll come back strong.
And I got to think the venues that you have dates booked on, they understand that they're in the same business you are in a way. And if the government says no, then you're going to not lose deposits, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, half the venues were turned into hospitals, as you saw in New York with the Javits Center. Same thing in Illinois. Donald E. Stevens was used as an overflow. So it got to a point where there wasn't an option anyway. It wasn't like it was the facility saying that they wouldn't open. State says you're not having it. So whether it was myself or a tattoo show, a Halloween show, a car show, whatever it was, there wasn't a show going on.
Steve, anything you want to add to this?
No, it's pretty similar. I mean, throughout the summer and into the fall, I was doing a number of things. I was monitoring things. I was working with the facility to see what options I had. Some of you may recall I sent out a survey, just saying, look, if we're able to hold an event in November, who's in? I think I had about 100 and some odd responses, and 86% of people said if we could hold it, they were there. A lot of that is due to the great loyalty, but it's also, I think, just a statement to the success of the hobby right now. But I was also looking at other options. Part of what people have been trying to do is to have shows designated as in the same category as retail settings. Yeah. So that if you have enough, basically, I think the calculation was 45 square feet per person. So in a 100,000 square foot building, you'd be allowed essentially to have 2,500 vendors.
Yeah.
Attendees. But so I'll continue to monitor all those things. But both Mitch and I have talked about it. I spoke to actually the folks from TriStar who do their own shows, and then from the National as well in the Beckett Summit. And you were talking about what we're each trying to deal with. We're going to have to do all the same things that most other events and retail settings have had to do. So part of that I'm doing in the background. How do you have the contact tracing and admission? Part of the problem / great thing about our shows is that 80% of the people show up and buy tickets for cash. That may well change. Obviously, the autograph relay is a whole other component, and that will have the most market change for sure. But I agree that there's a lot of pent up demand, and I think everyone, dealer and collector and fan alike, will support when we get back to it.
So people were asking kind of what was the name of the app again, but Colin put up sport. It's not Sports Card Expo, it's Sport Card Expo, right? No S on sports. It's sport. The app is the Sport Card Expo for anybody who wants to go check it out. Brian says the Expo app is a great idea with a lot of potential. Very interested to see how it develops. I think a lot of people are interested. Amit says Steve has discovered how cool Jeremy and Amit are. Christmas cards are appreciated. Yes, we would sleep, and we'd sleep in our booth space. We would. Okay, so we have Mikey Singer in the back room right now. I'm going to bring him out, and what's really cool, I'm glad he's joining because Mikey is the guy who is like I guess, tech support for the platform. So this is one of the guys who's out there going from booth to booth, session to session, main stage, and making sure that the thing is running properly. So let's bring him out. Mikey, welcome to Sports Cards Live, man. Episode 57. Happy to have you. How are you doing?
Awesome to be here. Awesome to be just making sure I'm not on mute on my Blue Yeti. But awesome to be here, and awesome not to be behind the camera stressing about putting up banners or questions and things like that, or running people when there's a tech issue with Mitch. You know, it's not me having to control it tonight. It's all you. So it's nice to be on this.
So tell us, because the people watching right now, they want to know what to expect at the Virtual Expo, whether they're attendees or vendors. I don't know if you've been tuning in from the beginning, but I kind of described what it looks like on screen. Steve talked about the different areas, the way you can navigate throughout it. What can you sort of add to kind of let the audience know? And with my goal, obviously, I want to see more and more people come to this thing. I want to see more and more vendors sign up for it. What can you share with everybody to kind of provide comfort and ease any stress that people might be feeling about setting up or navigating this thing?
Yeah, so I think that the first thing they need to realize is that although new, this will feel very familiar to you. So after 5 minutes, as Mitch said, once you came on the platform and really clicked around a little bit, what it feels like is an older version of Facebook. So a lot of people will be familiar with it. Second is, it's really easy to use. The only thing you have to have is Chrome. Once you're on Chrome, you'll be in. And I promise you, if you do have trouble, we're all there to navigate you. Just like if there was a facility that you weren't used to going, you'd look for info people. All our staff are there to direct you around. And the last part is, it's really dynamic. So unlike a Zoom conversation, which you may think this is what you're going into, it is not that. On your right-hand side and throughout the event, we'll follow the chat. This is where you'll be able to interact and have fun with all the other participants. On top of that, if you see a friend that you see at all your other events and expos, and that's why you come to these things, it's very easy for you to have a one-on-one conversation and have that link up that you've been so missing. Just recently on LinkedIn, I was going back and forth with another event professional and saying, he's like, there's nothing to replace live events and the endorphins of meeting up in person. I said, go to an awesome hop-in event with us and you'll see what you can really do on a virtual platform. And Jeremy, you said this quickly before. One of the awesome things about the industry summit is there was a real focus on the networking portion of the event. And this is, again, a one-on-one area where you link up randomly. So I don't know if you ever go to these mixers or parties or anything like that, but if you want to talk to someone that you maybe aren't friends with, it's very hard to do so in a group of 100 people. That means you've got to go interrupt their conversation with their friends and hope that they're going to spend their time with you. Whereas inside the networking, you may end up with the head of Panini and having that one-on-one conversation about your store that you would never have the opportunity to do in a larger setting. So that's one part of it. The second is, we talked about this in terms of player meetings and creating those memories. And really that's, Brandon Steiner touched on this at his talk at the industry summit. And it's creating moments and memories for people with them not just getting an autograph. What we can do on these platforms is really create a one-on-one moment. So unlike the autograph sessions that you have at shows where there's 100 or 200 people behind you, and there's the handler, and then there's the authenticator, and you move boom, 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 and it's a 2-second experience, and you got to shake their hand if you're lucky, and you got to tell them where to put their autograph, and you were moved along. Versus this, they're going to have a 2-minute one-on-one or 45-second one-on-one experience that will be recorded and a memory that will serve them a lifetime. And that's really what you were paying anyways, is for that experience and that one-on-one memory with that player or hero that you've had throughout life.
So yeah, great information, man. So because you're the guy who Steve mentioned earlier, you kind of found this platform. You must have researched it. Is it the best platform for a card show, or I want to change to a sports card and memorabilia show, or is it more for a trade show, an industry sort of trade show for whatever industry? Like I think the answer is yes, but I want to know from you, because you're an event guy. How do you think it holds up against any other options? And is it kind of like, does it have lasting power?
It does. We've done, so Hopin itself is a very successful platform. It just got valuation at $2 billion. So I think they've got some money to last for a bit. The second part is we've used 5 other platforms. So just last week, we ran 7 shows over 5 days using various platforms. I can tell you for what we do and the community that this collecting and hobby is, that's why Hopin is the best, because it allows them to connect with each other, trade with each other, talk with each other, which is really what these expos were built on, which is collecting all of these like-minded people into one room so they can trade, collect, and finish those sets. As Mitch was saying, get in a room and find those 4 rare cards to finish that 1950s top set that he never should have sold, because it'd probably be worth $1 million right now. Things like that. For me, it's been buying up every RJ Barrett rookie I can get my hands on, in every prism and optics, which is my obsession.
Were you a card guy before your involvement with Steve in the Expo, or is this kind of new for you?
So I laugh at Steve all the time, and even the guys at Beckett, who we just came off of the industry summit. So I was a card guy from probably 87 to 92 during the crash, and I still have about 10,000 cards. Everything from a box of Ken Griffey Jr. rookies, and I mean the original Don Russ rated rookies, and all of the I got suckered into buying so many of those upper decks. So I have a ton of that, and then 4 years ago now, I got into the card show with Steve, and it was hard not to buy things then. And then it's only gotten worse. And this year, it's gotten to an all-time crescendo. I pretend that every time a new card arrives in the mail from eBay or whoever, that I bought it months ago, and it just takes a really long time to get here to my life. And I hide it in a new spot. You can see a bunch of them here.
Yeah.
And some
Awesome.
are hidden.
Okay, I'm going to go to a couple of comments here. This one, anonymous, said, nothing like watching the World Series in a tied game along with Sports Cards live feed. I love it. That's awesome. Amit promises to give Mikey a hard time at the next show. And then Amit says, Mitch and Steve, have you both come up with a messaging strategy for the show collectively? This is truly an international event with a U.S. and Canadian sponsor. Who wants to speak to that? Mitch, you haven't spoken for a few minutes. Why don't you take this one?
Yeah, no, we've just, like I said, working hand in hand with Steve and really just promoting to both our consumer bases and our dealer bases and promoting individual. I think basically this week, and Steve can speak to, will really be coming out as we're within the month now of pushing the expo. And it is truly a joint effort. So it's not like, I'm just speaking to my people. He's just speaking to his. Like I said, we have dealers coming on to see both. We have collectors coming on to see both. And like I said, it's a unified effort, unified front for sure.
That's great. Steve, anything to add?
Yeah, this could be a good segue for one of the things you mentioned at the beginning you might want to talk about. But so as I mentioned at the outset, the audience was almost evenly split between Canada and the US, which is not lost on anybody that was involved. Many dealers and sponsors as well. Chris Carlin from Upper Deck said the same thing. He said he personally had 3 or 4 chats within networking from guys in Finland and Italy and various other places, which quite excited him on that, because again, he's got a very global outlook. So it's inherently that way. And while there's some intricacies we need to work around, for example, if I want to buy Series 1, that's going to be now released likely the day or 2 days before the Virtual Expo. I got to make sure, and well, this is more incumbent on the dealers, but they're selling to buyers in their respective countries. But so no, it kind of automatically blends or markets itself as a virtual international virtual show. But yeah, we're doing that. The advertising that we're doing is primarily North American focused, but it also is hobby driven. And the segue being that a lot of money and interest into the hobby comes from outside of North America as well. So.
Yeah, for sure. And I just want to mention, because Mikey, you're still here. You're welcome to stick around, man. I just want to mention if you're watching, like, when you're at the expo, this is Mikey's one of the guys. Steve will be there, Mitch will be there. These guys are going to be cruising around, watching things, making sure everything's running smoothly. But Mikey's going to be a guy who will be there to help. And I can tell you, having attended 2 events that he has helped facilitate, the support team is extremely helpful, and they're pretty quick too. So, I mean, I just want to give you some kudos on that, Mikey.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Yeah, but it's important because it's new to so many people, and I think a lot of people, attendees and vendors, are a little, they're a little apprehensive. Some of them are likely apprehensive, and I think we understand that because this is new. It's new. But it's new, but understand a couple of things. Number one, you have support. You got the support of Steve and Mitch, and then you got support of the support staff, Mikey and the rest of that of his team. And it's not just Mikey. There's like 8 or 9 of you guys that are out there helping. So that's extremely helpful. And I want to put this up. Colin makes an amazing point. He says, for the dealers out there, at the last show, the virtual led to me purchasing 5 collections. That's a success, right?
Yeah.
So it's a success. I can tell you that I've set up at the expo for 15 years now. So what is that, 30 expos or so? This last one was like probably my second best one ever. That, not just during the 2 days, but a couple days that followed. There were some deals that lingered, but they got done. They got done a few days later. And that's the beauty of it. You're not just doing deals at and during the show. You're meeting customers, you're getting contact information. And if you are somebody who organizes these things and follows up and is building a customer list, you're going to be able to do that at this show. But the beautiful thing is you've now met these people face to face on your screen, which is really cool. Amit says, one thing I liked about the last show, our booth was so interesting. The tech support guy joined us for a spirited conversation. So, yeah.
I assume that was Scott.
Must have been running so smooth that they had time to go in and sit in. But, I think what they're really doing is they're dropping in on the booths to make sure everything is running smooth and maybe hanging out for a few minutes because there's some interesting conversation going on. So,
and Jeremy, you brought up two good points there. The first is everything that you sell at the show is just one aspect of it. What we saw from the report that eBay gave to us is there was a massive halo effect for every one of the stores who exhibited at the show. So for the next month afterwards, they saw an increase of 10 to 15% in sales. As you say, you felt right away. The second part of that, your comment just now, my team, if you're an exhibitor at the show, you won't be alone out there. We will be searching, watching you. As Colin found out a couple times when he had some audio issues he wasn't even aware of, we will pop on there and make sure that everything is running correctly. There's even some more things that we're going to show all of our exhibitors that they've added in the last couple of days, like you can tell. And the last part is what I really love about the platform versus some of the 3D ones and things like that. You can see who's in the booth with you now. So you can actually engage and talk to them. So it feels like a live event. You're not just a number on a screen. You're a face, you're a person. Someone can say hi to you. You can be recognized and acknowledged.
And if if you're a people person, if you like engaging in conversation, if you're social by nature, which I am, it was so enjoyable to have company in the booth with me. And it was funny because at that point I'd been doing this show for 2.5 months, and I had people who were loyal viewers come to the expo and sit in the room with me. And it was the first time that I'd met them in person on the screen versus just being a name with a comment. And, it was just another really nice way to meet more people in the hobby, grow the network, grow the community, and strengthen it, which, Mitch, can you speak to that a little bit? Because you've been in the hobby so long, you've been doing events for so long. The question was asked earlier about how have you seen people change in their collecting, but I want to change the question a little bit to how have you seen the community change since you promoted your first show in 1979, 89? We're 30 years late, 30, 40 years later already.
40. Oh my God.
Doing the math. How have you seen the community change in that time?
Bottom line has become mainstream is really what it was, in the late 70s, early 80s. Again, I think collecting sports cards was looked at more of a hobby thing that kids did. Maybe you did with your dad and completed sets. And now it's become every bit of an investment. The investment part of it really wasn't there when the card boom happened. I said late 80s, a little bit before the crash, as Mikey pointed out. But now it's a lot of it is investment, and you see that. I mean, you could never fathom back in 1980 that they'd be coming out with a box that would have one pack in it, and that the box is thousands of dollars, and like I said, that gambling mentality, either won or you lost, so to speak, like a scratch off, boom, you're done. That never existed. We always look forward to the new cards coming out by Topps, Fleer, Donruss, whoever was there, but it was more about the whole box came out, the whole set came out. So the mentality of investment, which, as we talked about earlier before I got knocked off, the mentality of the gambling, mentality of the whole involvement, that's where I've really seen the community change. And the fact that it's become mainstream and international as well, like we've talked about.
True, right? It's become really quite global, especially basketball's reach and all that for sure. Colin goes on to say, meet up on Messenger days later, still doing deals from the virtual show. So he's still doing deals that spawned out of the virtual back at the end of June. That's what I think the potential vendors out there watching who are maybe on the fence, think about it. Like you're really leaving an opportunity. Like I was so happy, and no offense to you, Steve, but the first virtual, I was happy there were only 50 vendors. I got so many more eyeballs on my booth. I must have done way more deals that time. Yeah. So, I mean, what do you want to jump in with, Steve?
Two things, but one that. So literally I had close to half the attendance of the regular spring show with a quarter of the number of dealers. So right out of the gate, every dealer had potentially way more customers than they normally would. So that's part of when we said earlier how many booths we're going to have. I want to be cognizant of that. We don't want to just have it open-ended. But and the other thing is that the other key advantage to this, actually I wanted to comment because ironically both Mitch and I are somewhat not social in that regard. We're so often around a lot of people, we aren't always the most. But when you're talking about that, you can see as a collector or a fan, if I'm coming into your booth, yes, we can have a video chat, but if I don't want to be on video, I don't have to. So that's a point. But the other key thing for dealers to consider, I had a bunch of the dealers that were in the virtual say that, you know what, the savings that I got from the eBay offer alone more than paid for the cost of the booth. And many had savings much more significant. Whether you're a big eBay seller now or not, or just coming in new, there are offers that attract both. So that's a key point. And then I just want to clarify on that because everyone does see the event is powered by eBay and they've been tremendous partners for us on this. But a couple of things, you don't need to transact through eBay on the platform. Now, many people do, and there's obviously inherent advantages to doing that with respect to PayPal and insurance and that sort of thing. But so they've been great to work with. But again, the offers that are extended to dealers, and there's some slight distinctions between Canada and the US in that regard, but are great in and of themselves.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll just say it because I'm not involved with you guys. I'm just here hosting you as my guest this evening. But as a vendor, I would not be using eBay. I will not be using eBay to sell my cards because I had success using Dropbox, as I mentioned earlier. Amit used Google Docs. He had success that way. And, we're both pretty much available, to help wannabe vendors. If you're wondering how to do that, shoot me a message. I can put there's my Instagram, there's my Twitter, there's an email address for me. You can reach out to me if you have any questions. I can kind of give you the Coles Notes or the Cliff Notes in the US as to how, right? It's Coles Notes in Canada, it's Cliff Notes in the States. I can give you the notes on how to really maximize the time that you're spending at the virtual as a vendor, and how to, I think, maybe maximize your customers' enjoyment and ease of sorting through what you have. I just got a lot of good feedback on what I did, and I'm happy to share that strategy. I want to also mention, I'm going to put up right here. So this is where you guys can go to learn or to watch some videos about how the platform works. If you just go to YouTube and you search MKEM, you will see a YouTube channel called MKEM. And that's where you will find the videos that these guys are recording from these training sessions and putting on there. And I just looked at it a few minutes ago. I think there's one video on there right now. You can see Mikey's face on it on the YouTube thumbnail, and I think Steve's face as well. So go check that out. And I'm sure as you guys hold more of these seminars, you will be putting more of those videos on that channel. Is that right, Mikey?
We will, and even from previous training sessions from the last time we did it and other shows, there's other ideas in there, so people can go to that my YouTube channel. There's a ton of different resources in there if they want to look through, and we will definitely be adding to it. And it's funny you brought up you and Amit and how successful you were at the event. I pull up a picture of Amit at 99 goals talking to the attendees and saying, this is how you utilize this platform effectively. Use it like you would your booth. Talk to the people. Be live. Don't show a screen and hide off the screen. You know, you want to be successful. Engage with people, and they will engage back with you.
You know, I'm going to say to that, Mikey, because you're so right in terms of if you think about going to I'm just going to take that off the screen right now, but it's MKEM, everybody. That's the YouTube channel. Go check it out. It's just like going to a card show. If you're at a card show, whether it's the Chicago Spectacular or the Sport Card Expo, and you walk up to a booth and the vendor is sitting there in his chair or in her chair, looking at their phone, maybe reading the newspaper, maybe eating their lunch, and they know you're there. They can see you in their peripherals. They know you're there, but they don't even look up and acknowledge you. And it happens, let's face it, it happens all the time. They don't even acknowledge that someone's there looking at their merchandise. I mean, that's just bad business. No wonder they just don't look happy, right? But if you're someone at a card show and you do it the way I do it or Amit does it, where we're at our booth, someone comes up, I engage in discussion with them right away. Just start talking, small talk. How are you doing? A couple walks up. I say to the guy, she dragged you to the card show again, you know, that kind of thing. You just get people laughing, get them having fun. That's what I did at the Virtual Expo. As soon as I saw eyeballs on the room, I spoke to them, even though I didn't know who they were. I couldn't see them. I said, hey, anyone who just came in, great to have you. Welcome to the expo. And here's where you can go find my cards. I hope you're having a good time. Come on screen if you want. Mikey, jump in.
I was just going to say, Jeremy, what's awesome now is as people enter your booth, you'll actually be able to see who it is. So so that's the big thing. You'll even be able to see who's in there with you during the whole time in the sessions. That's some of the improvements that have been added there. And then finally, it's not just for like new young millennials or Gen Zs such as yourself. It's for some of the older gentlemen. Neil Bernstein is a perfect example. He's been in this business for 40 years. It's at Hotel Collectibles, and he thrived on the platform. And we walked him through it. He was uncomfortable at first, but he now has a new second, third wife with Esther, who has helped him with the platform, know it, be comfortable with it. And whether it's setting up Google Docs for Amit or for Neil Bernstein, we're there to make sure the experience is seamless.
Yeah. Mitch, anything you want to jump in with just in terms of this sort of discussion as it may apply to your vendors at the Chicago Spectacular? If any of them are watching right now, anything you kind of want to, maybe any message you want to send? I mean, we're sending all sorts of messages, but
just the same thing. Reiterate, like I said, my wife Rhonda and Sue, the person who works with all the vendors, have been reaching out not only through the constant contacts and the emails and the social medias, but directly making phone calls. And again, just getting people over that hump to try it. Especially to come on the demos. Certainly doesn't cost anything to come and watch a demo and see how the platform works. And then just knowing from all we've talked about that, can't stress enough that the virtual is going to become a piece of this industry moving forward. So if you're not involved in the virtual, you're going to be missing out on a piece of the industry, and nobody wants to miss out on any of that.
Yeah, you're falling further and further behind if you're not going to jump on now. I felt like a lot of my fellow expo vendors that did not take part the first time, I kind of shook my head. I thought, and the reasons I heard were, let's see how it goes, or I don't want to do that. I want a real show. I'll wait for the November show. That's right. I'm thinking to myself, you're missing an opportunity to conquer that learning curve before most people get in there and trailblaze. Like, let's be trailblazers here. That's what's wonderful if you can do it. Steve, you got something to say?
Yeah. And ironically, I mean, in a lot of ways, this is a real analog industry still, or hobby. But some of those same people are saying, virtual is not for me. And yet it's as engaging as you can literally be without being there. But these same people will be still starting to embrace services like ComC or, like a sports card investor, market movers and those kinds of things. So there is some catching up to do. But I think that's an important part is just to get in there. Part of the research that I was doing for my November show was, can I do a hybrid event? I agree with Mitch completely that virtual will be a component of it going forward, as will the app and so on. But imagine, and it's hard for a single person dealer like yourself, but imagine somebody bigger, like a bricks and mortar, who could have a camera set up in their booth, and somebody calls in and they're from whatever. Whether it be somewhere geographically out of the way, Europe, Asia, whatever, they can be looking at their collection or show, hey, I'm looking for this. Do you have any design prisms? So that's all part of what it can and will evolve into. Or it could be the Q&As, pushing those out. We were supposed to have had Jaromir Jagr, as you know, at the May show. We could have people watching his Q&A and so on from around the world and doing then one-on-one. So
I think it's really cool that you can now push out main stage and stream it live onto like a YouTube or something like that. That's a
wonderful, perfect example.
But the beautiful thing about that, to me, Steve, is that if you do that, you can now, that's going to attract people that aren't even aware that the virtual is going on, and you use that to bring them to the virtual. Say, hey, you're watching this, you're missing a card show right now, boys and girls, right? I mean, that's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
And Okay. I want to bring on a couple comments here. Rich says, another pro of the virtual show is that you can be doing other stuff simultaneously. I was wheeling, dealing up till my own wedding. It's so funny because Rich bought a card from me, and then I think like a few minutes later, he sends me a picture of him like just getting married on the day of the show. I'm like, dude, what are you doing at the card show? You're literally in the limo on the way to your own wedding right now, and he's buying cards. I mean, I love it. I love the loyalty to the hobby and the passion. That was great. And Amit jumps in and says he's also more than happy to help anyone with questions. So Amit and I, again, we're not affiliated with these guys. We're just vendors at the show, long-term expo vendors and vendors at the virtual who had success and are willing to share some of our what we think are best practices in terms of running your booth at the show. And also in terms of navigating the show. We both had some luck with that. And myself being an attendee at the Beckett Industry Summit this past week, got to use the platform yet again. Peter says, as a customer at the Virtual Expo as well, please have items that I can browse through while you are talking to other customers. Think of it as your virtual display case. And that goes back to what I said about me having a link in my booth, which anybody could click on and go see my cards in another browser in my Dropbox. It would just open up a web browser and you could be browsing cards on one screen and listening and watching us talk, or even talking with us, being on screen and talking with us on the screen. This is not just a card show. Or a sports card and memorabilia show. It's also, if you are a social person and you want to grow your hobby network and be a part of the community, it's a social event too. That's how I look at it. And I can't wait for it for that point. Peter goes on to say, prices are a must as a starting discussion point. I'm a big fan of having my cards priced. A lot of people don't price their cards. And if you're a dealer who doesn't put prices on the front of your cards, I'm not saying the back. Some people put them on the back. Put them on the front. You will sell way more cards as a dealer if you put your prices on the front of your cards. I know so many card show attendees that will just not even talk to you if your cards don't have prices. So really important stuff there. Just a tip. Okay. Any of you, I'm going to scan a few more comments. Anyone have anything else they want to say right now?
I just think there's a good comment coming up about eBay and about replacing it as if there's anyone who's going to replace it as a top way of purchasing.
So Mikey's ahead of me in the comments. Mikey, you can be a co-host another time. So let me bring it up because I do see the comment here. Let's bring it up. I'll read it and you can speak to it. No, it's okay, buddy. It's okay.
I'm sorry, and I'm writing to Amit in the comment section too.
It's
So
all right,
I'm
it's
used to dual screening. This is easy for me. So Cardboard Nostalgia talks about or has the question, is anyone going to replace eBay as the top place to purchase the cards on the internet? And the reason they are the top isn't because of you vendors or you card sellers. It's because of us buyers. So me as a consumer coming into the hobby again, where's the first place I'm going to go because I know they sell it is eBay. So there's a lot of auctions, a lot of action going on there. They've improved it. Now I can make offers. So I'm making deals back and forth. It's not just an auction site anymore. So you can still set up a Shopify store. Everyone can still, like, I just made a purchase off of Cardboard Collectibles off of their own website powered by them. You can do other ways to do it. But I think until someone has, you know, an Amazon or someone like that with that kind of power and reach for the consumers, no. I don't see a collectible exchange replacing them. I don't see a ComC replacing them. I mean, it's just too powerful, too large at this point for something to come in and knock it out of the water.
Yeah, I'm with you. eBay is a powerhouse in the hobby, and they're involved in this show. They're involved at the Beckett Summit we were all just at. I mean, they're a powerhouse, no doubt about it. And you know, they may be rigid, but you know, they do have, I believe, new people involved on the trading cards category. And I managed to meet a bunch of them at the summit. Mikey, you nod as if you did as well. So, you know, they're trying, I think they're just trying to be more in touch with the hobby than they were before. And they're really taking trading cards seriously. But there are problems, especially in transparency and in return policies, especially with what's going on in the hobby right now. And this Facebook user says, you know, it's harder to price your cards nowadays because prices are changing so fast. That's a great point, because it's true. Prices are changing like day to day on some cards sometimes, and it is hard to stay on top of it. Like, you know, I know Amit is pricing his cards right now for next month. He might have to change some of them between now and then, up or down. So it's a great point, well taken. And although I still am a big fan of having my cards priced, and I plan to, I think it just adds more work, and it forces us as dealers to price our cards in a more timely fashion, maybe closer to the show itself instead of 2 or 3 months ahead or even 4 weeks ahead. But Chris makes a good point here. Don't make people buy and sell your cards. It's true. I don't want to go up to a booth and someone says to me, well, make me an offer. No, it's your card. Price your card. I'll counter you if I don't like it. And if you don't like my counter, I don't like your price. No deal. It's a stalemate. We both walk away. No big deal. We can still be friends. So great point there by that by this Facebook user, who I'm sure I know you, but I'm not sure who you are right now. Okay, so a couple more comments here. Barry from ComC is with us. Barry, welcome to the show. How many people can you have share screens in a booth? ComC is looking at adding much more interactive games at the next show.
So great question. Everyone on there can share a screen. So you can have up to, inside the booth itself, you can have up to 10 screens on at one time. So if you have 4 people on and 4 people sharing screens, no problem, up to 5. So you could have 5 people sharing screens, no problem within a booth. Inside a session room, you could have up to 20 screens being shared. So 10 people each having a shared screen. So if you wanted to do bingo, or I don't know what kind of crazy stuff you're planning, they spin the wheel. Yeah, and it's funny that you just mentioned spin the wheel, Jeremy. So one of our best vendors, or who really captured the most attention, was Frameworth, and they did so by having a spinning wheel. That's why I have hockey pucks, even though I don't even care about hockey. It's because it was fun and awesome. And they had an auction going on, a live auction. Tons of interactions. They had 800 people visit the booth and spend like 17,000 minutes in it.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. Go ahead.
I mean, I just want to say to anybody out there, you know, who's thinking about joining, and it's a different topic, but anyone who's, you know, I just want to really make it clear how much fun this thing was last time. Like, I literally felt I was at a card show. I didn't just feel like I was on a screen trying to hawk my cards. I actually felt like I was at a card show, and I'm saying this because, you know, my buddy Darcy, welcome to the show. I thought it was you that made that comment, and someone like Darcy who lives in BC, you know, can't come to the expo, can't fly from BC out to Toronto every show. For someone like that, this is a great opportunity to be part of the expo in its virtual format, have a booth, and it's fun. Like it's just fun. I think it's great. Darcy goes on to say about pricing, high end fluctuates hard. It certainly does, especially right now. So, okay, I want to just say one more thing before I turn it over to you guys. I want to thank Mitch and Steve for, again, promoting that you were going to be on Sports Cards Live tonight, even though we're here promoting your show, which I'm happy to do. But thanks for bringing more viewers to my show. If you're new, if you haven't yet subscribed to the YouTube channel, Sports Cards Live, please do so. Hit the thumbs up button that you like the show tonight. Hopefully, you guys are getting some value out of this, and you're becoming a bit more comfortable with the idea of doing a virtual show if you haven't done one yet, and if you want to do one. So please like the video, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. That helps me out. I greatly appreciate it. Guys, we can kind of go to some parting words. We're just about at the 2-hour mark, so we can cut it off in a few minutes. Steve, you want anything else to add before we call it a night or before we end this episode? And just so sorry, Steve, one sec, before I turn it over, I will be back for the After Hours episode, which is another show on the same YouTube channel in 35 minutes. And Amit will be co-hosting with me. So we're going to be talking some more about the virtual and how excited we are for it, among other hobby topics. Please subscribe. Thanks, everyone, for joining. Steve?
Yeah, I'm going to give Amit a call just to wake him up so he is ready for that. But no, listen, I very much enjoy the show all the time. It's actually part of how I'm educating myself in the hobby is by watching this. I mean, I knew about your opinion on the Gretzky rookie cards and everything from previous shows. So I'm enjoying this. I welcome the opportunity to talk about the show. For a lot of dealers that are interested, it costs nothing to go and check out a demo, and I really appreciate all the other dealer feedback that you're providing and that others have weighed in on with comments. So it's great. And that's the great thing about a community. When you do well by the community, they do well by you. And thank you for everyone.
So go to the website, guys, sportcardexpo.com. And from there, you can, there must be a contact us. If you do want to contact Steve and request a link to the demo, to one of their upcoming demos and the schedule for the demos. Yeah. Mikey does run these things. I sat in on all of them last time because I wanted to make sure I was ready. So I sat in on like 4 of them. They were all the same, but I wanted to really hammer it into my head how this thing was going to work. So that's what I did. I recommend you do it too. And it paid dividends. Like I think I made more money because of it. So I recommend you guys doing that too. Mitch, any parting comments?
Well, thanks, Jeremy, for having us. It was great. It's my first time with you. Awesome show. Love to be back on in the future. Like I said, I just want to talk to my dealers and say everybody's been contacted numerous times, but if you're looking for anything, go to our website, chicagosportspectacular.com. Everything is there for the virtual expo, all the demo registrations, all the demo dates like we talked about earlier, and give it a try. Like we said, don't miss out because I've said it numerous times, the virtual and the lives are going to come together. And it's going to be a thing of the future one way or another. So appreciate you having us on and giving us the time. Look forward to doing it again.
Yeah, my pleasure. And I agree. It is the future. The future is virtual. It's just going on now. And whether, the pandemic is what triggered it, I don't think it's going to go away. So If you want to stay ahead of the learning curve, now is a great time to get involved. And it's just a lot of fun as well. I have to make the point. Mikey, any final comments from you before I go through the parting comments from the crowd?
Yeah, if you haven't learned virtual, you might as well get used to it because we're probably going to be doing it for the next couple of years. But it's okay, guys. Cut me off, but it's great. Honestly, it's super fun. I've never been on a live YouTube stream, so this was a real treat for me. It was really cool to actually just be a guest and not have to worry if anyone's audio or video is working and just enjoy myself, having fun in the chat as well. So awesome show. I've been a fan. I've watched it. I think I've been a subscriber now for 6 or 7 months on YouTube.
Appreciate that, Mike. I appreciate it. All right, guys, it's been great having you on the show. I'm going to run through the parting comments from the from our crowd. And then we're going to end this. And again, I'll be back on in half an hour with the meet for the After Hours episode. You can find it on the same YouTube channel, Sports Cards Live. Again, please subscribe. Please like this video. That seems to help. And just to go through the parting comments now, Darcy says, I think it's a great idea for you guys to do a big show in the West as well. Legion, thank you for joining as always. Colin says, I sold a card to someone in Dawson City from Gold Rush show. Terry, thanks. Thank you, Terry, for joining. Always a great viewer. Absolute Mike, thanks so much for joining. Al, great to have an opportunity to witness this conversation. Al, always happy to have you with us. Paul, thank you so much. Billy, we're just not gonna get to your question tonight, but thanks for your involvement tonight. It's been great. Everybody watching, thank you so much. To my guests tonight, guys, thank you for what you're doing. Thanks for putting on the virtual. Again, the virtual show, you have support. Don't be intimidated by this thing. Get in touch with these guys. Request a demo, or the link to the demo. Attend the demo. It's free. It'll help set your mind at ease and make this whole thing a little bit less intimidating and hopefully less stressful. And we'll see all of you guys at the virtual November 21 and 22. Websites are on the bottom of the screen right now. Check them out. Dunkachino, good night to you. Amish Dave, thank you for joining. Tiger Jordan, great to have you as well. All right, that's it. Good night, everybody. We'll see you on After Hours in half an hour.
Good night.
You
Have
guys,
a great night.
You guys stay there for 1 sec. All right. Did it not end? It's end.